Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 2 of the Second Aid Show, where today we have a really big and interesting video with lots of rumors, confirmation, speculation, and of course news around the Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series. And it's one of the most videos I've been most excited to do on my channel so far. But as usual, my co-hosts here are also here to help me and support me, just like in episode 1. So firstly, we're starting off with Kyle. Hello, my friend.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks again for having me.
Sure. And also, hello, Lakitia.
Hello, good to be back.
So how excited are you guys for, because you are going to know before the viewers about today's video. We've got a lot to talk about, don't we?
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm brimming to say the least.
Yep. So we all are here, and but before we get into that, I would like to first start off with some just more of those official updates from the Amazon show, so we'll get into that. And then, as you could tell from I think my tweet yesterday and my announcement yesterday, we have the first not official, the first story leaks and set leaks from Lord of the Rings on Prime. So these are exclusive, unconfirmed rumors. So yeah, that's how I would like to phrase it. And as you know, for a few months now, I have said that when I look at YouTube and doing this and just being this doing this job, but you could say now, of being a source, I always think of it as 100% mindset, and if regarding credibility, and if anything I put out may potentially harm that and basically give me a bad track record, I do not put it out. And I think Penguin Poppins made a really good post, I put on screen right now, saying that I'll probably release only about 15% or 10% of what I actually hear. But I believe that everything and all the story leaks in today's videos that I've been able to do, being able to investigate, I believe are credible enough to be revealed to the public, so to everyone here. And they are quite interesting. There's nothing maybe too big or massive, so there's no spoiler worthy anyway. So just interesting and revelations around the show. So Lakitia, Carl, do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't get to hear much from Lord of the Rings on Prime itself, so anything else we hear is absolutely welcome.
Yeah, I think it's all up for discussion, so we're in a cool position.
I think that's very well put. But so before we get into those story leaks, we firstly have to talk about the first update, which is that the the official wrap party for season 1 of Lord of the Rings on Prime will be in 3 weeks. So from 3 weeks from today, that they're going to have that party. And Carl, do you want to talk about more about like who this is aimed at, really?
Yeah, so it sounds like it's mostly for the crew members, but that some of the actors will be there as well. And I know some of them have already gone home, so it'll be interesting to see who will be there.
Yeah,
Indeed.
exactly. I think it also ties in nicely with the fact that lots of the cast members, like Kyle said, have already gone home.
Mm.
Like we know that Simon Morales has already left, and Augustus Prue, Sofia Nonvetti as well.
Mhm.
And recently, Nazanin Boniadi also mentioned that she's going to be back. She hopes to be back in Washington soon. So I think her departure is also imminent. So yeah, makes sense. And the cast and crew, like you said, they've been together for such a long time now. I think a little farewell party would make total sense to wrap the season up.
Yeah, wrap parties are quite typical on any production, big or small. So
Maybe it would be interesting if maybe the day that. So we originally heard that is going to be 30th of July for including pickups. Apparently, according to some, I think, Instagram sources like Terra Media BR, which is a Brazilian account, apparently principal photography is ending this week. And that could easily be the case. Of course, I'm not going to say anything, I haven't got confirmed, so I'm not sure exactly when principal photography is finishing. But apparently, it is this week. But pickups are going to continue into July, and July 30th, but might is apparently when the deadline for it. And if it's 3 weeks from today, not from today, well, from a few days ago, then it looks like all the timings match up basically. So yeah, that's fun. So that's the main bit of news to get into it. But now,
Yes, indeed. And
yeah, go on.
I just wanted to mention that, like you said, that the actual wrapping up happening a little earlier than we presumed. That also ties in nicely with what Ismael Cruz Cordova, who we presume is going to be one of the main actors on the show, has
Mm.
told us about, I don't know, half a year ago. I remember him mentioning that he's done filming and he's going back home in June.
Mm.
So not July, June. Of course, he could have been just one of the cast members to go home earlier. But I think as he's one of the bigger actors, I think that makes sense to, just to let us know that the production is in fact ending very, very soon.
Winding down. Yeah, that's some really good insight.
Indeed. And of course, hopefully, as I said before, there might be a picture or maybe just a little thing from the final day, or maybe from that party. But it's mainly aimed at the crew members. As you said last week, they've been there for about some for 20 months now as well. And they,
Unbelievable.
yeah, and some of them that aren't involved in post production are aiming to be back home by mid August as well. So yeah, that is the first bit. Now let's get into the interesting part. So we have three story leaks, and you could say plot leaks, but nothing really you could deduce from the plot of the show. Maybe the second one, but before we go on, we'd like to say that this is all just as of this moment unconfirmed rumors. So yeah, but I think from what I've been investigating, this can be released as it is credible enough. So remember Wayne Chia? Remember a few months ago I put out as unconfirmed rumors. So it's basically like that, and you saw how that turned out as a little hint. So let's get right into it then. So the first bit of the rumors are that an unconfirmed dwarven king falls down a mineshaft and has mineshafts topple over him, but survives merely with his life and makes it out and survives. So yes, this dwarven king has apparently fallen down a mineshaft and had mineshafts topple over him, and he just about made it out with his life. So, Lakitia, do you want to start off with this?
Sure. So that tells me two very obvious things. First of all, that the dwarves are going to be featuring quite prominently in the show. If the show is in fact going to be centered upon the forging of the rings, then the dwarves aren't exactly, the big players in that story. But I think that this little tidbit of information can give us some hint that the dwarves are in fact going to be present and there's going to be stuff happening to them. And another thing is that there's going to be action scenes. It's not just going to be all dry, I don't know, political drama and just interpersonal drama, but we're in fact going to see some very action heavy scenes quite early on as well. But this also makes me wonder what the context is. Hopefully, he doesn't fall down the mine shaft due to a Balrog. Like we all know, that the Balrog is not scheduled to appear for another couple thousand years. I believe it first appears in the Third Age in 1980, when he or it slays during the Fourth. So I really hope they're not going to be bringing the Balrog up that much sooner, due to the fact that a Balrog is a very easily recognizable being in Middle Earth, and due to Fellowship of the Ring, very popular as well. So I kind of hope something else makes the Dwarven King fall down the mine shaft.
Yeah, but Carl, but this at the same time as Lakitia fears that it does kind of scream Balrog or something being uncovered, isn't it?
Yeah, it does make me wonder why they're having this, dwarven king fall down a deep shaft. Like, there's got to be a reason for it, and
And
I
and not
I kind of
only
had a
fall
thought around
down,
that.
but have mineshaft's top or fall onto him as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So there's gonna be, I think there's gonna be, there's gonna be a story, something, there's something there, and whether it's a Balrog or not, who's to say? But I certainly could see it being something even like maybe a premonition or a vision of something dark and deep down there, and maybe that's when the rules around how deep their mining can changes, and then maybe later on in the ages they start to ignore that rule and continue to dig even deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be. But I really hope, I think the constant throwbacks that the Hobbit films made to the Lord of the Rings trilogy were something that came off quite cringy at times.
Yes.
So I kind of hope that the new series is not going to be too full of those fan service moments
I
going
agree.
forward.
I do agree with that. The flashbacks in the the references and stuff in The Hobbit left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth as well. But there's some productions that do it really tastefully. So we'll see how they do it.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
And around maybe being maybe a Balrog on my Council of Fans podcast that came out on Friday, the main takeaways from it in the comment sections and on Reddit and other places was that do we have Balrogs? So not some were saying less is more, and by that implying that you don't need Balrogs. Some saying yes, Balrogs can make sense. It can explain why Gandalf died to and had to fight him off in Moria, because he could show how the power of Balrogs and that it could make sense as well. So there's both sides of that, and you can probably tell that Lakiti is more on the other side. And I just I just don't get it. The funny thing is he's a king of dwarfs. Like, this isn't just a random dwarf. This is king,
Right.
and it has to be such a big thing in order for him to fall down, a king to fall down things, fall down these mine shafts and have this topple over him. It would have to be quite a catastrophic event. But
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
and
I
I
think.
think,
Sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead,
I
please.
was just gonna say it's a big visual, and even when I read it for the first time, I kind of got goosebumps because that's a big plot point, and I think that there's a lot that could be there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a big plot point.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think that they'd just be showing a dwarven king randomly, falling
Yeah.
down some mine shaft. So it's got to be like a climactic moment. So I'm really
Mm.
curious to know what that's all about.
and
As long as they're not just using it as a reason to have a Balrog in it, right? Like as long as if there is a Balrog present, it can make sense. Like it can work as long as it's done the right way.
Yeah.
and just another interesting thing is that, of course, around all this Balrog thing, it is just part of the speculation. We're just giving our own thoughts now. We haven't heard it is a Balrog or anything. But what? Well, first of all, we also presuming as well this is probably Khazad-dûm, isn't it? Unless there could be any
It's
other
got to be.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just around about the things that, what else could make this Dwarven King fall just, I don't know, that far? Do you guys have any other ideas? Just be pushed off? Just have...
It could
Yeah,
also, yeah, I think it could also just be like a world building or a character
yeah.
building moment. Maybe, maybe to show that this particular dwarven king is getting a bit old and,
Mm.
can't really handle the normal mining stuff anymore. I think it could be just an inner conflict or something. Who knows,
But
right?
That's interesting. So we're probably talking, Durin 2 or 3, right? One or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
presumably.
yeah.
So I do wonder if maybe they'll compress those two timelines and kind of just use just one Durin and have, the forging of the rings and the creation of the doors of Durin kind of at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just, the thing that interests me about it is mine shafts toppling over. Because that's what
Mm.
I was sent. But what could big enough could make these mine shafts topple over each other? So yeah, this is the fun of it. There's so much. Of course, while Amazon isn't here, this is the only stuff that everyone's in the community will probably gonna get for a while, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just these
that's
little
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tidbits,
true.
and it's quite substantial. Nothing like massive that is gonna like ruin the show or anything that like for people who wanted to watch. But it's interesting that we have gotten this first leak from him, and then
It is. I
yeah,
wonder, do either of you have any thoughts on who would be playing him?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
I think Peter Mullen is
Yeah.
the prime candidate for a
Yeah.
Dwarven King. I mean, his
Yeah.
voice, the way he looks, he's
Oh,
just
he's
the
so good.
top candidate
Yeah.
for me. And
I
yeah, he's
agree.
so good. He's such a great actor as well.
I actually did a character poster, a Dwarven King character poster, with using his
that can be
image.
on screen as well right now. So yeah,
Yeah, I
looks
think he's the prime candidate, and he's also like really high profile actor as well. I mean, as
He
far as
is.
high
Yeah.
profile actors in the current cast go,
Yeah.
he's been in loads of stuff. He's got a great, great, like his name means something. So I think
Yes.
he would be
Yeah.
a really good candidate. And I think we can pretty safely assume that he's not going to be playing like an elven lord or anything. He could also be a Numenorian, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's the case.
Yeah.
So
Certainly possible. No, I loved him. I absolutely loved. I thought he was phenomenal in both Westworld and Ozark.
Yeah, and it looks like, and just to wrap up on this part, the only problem here is that we'll have to wait a year to see if this was true or
Oh
not.
man,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
ruining my hopes and dreams.
because maybe not a year, maybe a bit less or maybe even a bit more, but it
Yeah.
looks like unlike all my other news, we'll have to that normally either confirmed by Amazon or by cast members. This is just we're gonna have to wait on this one. But maybe
Yeah.
we'll come back to this in a year's time. But I think we should get on to the next one then. So the next bit of leak that we've got is also around the principal photography. Is that as of late May 2021, one of the final main sets and filming scenes for season 1 of Lord of the Rings on Prime's at Camus Film Studios was the Numenorian Queen throne room. So yes, the final things that was filmed during season 1 at Camus Film Studios was this apparently massive Numenorian Queen throne room. And I've heard more about what happens in this throne room, but I wouldn't, as of right now, reveal what happens. But as of right now, this Numenorian Queen throne room, and of course, you can probably tell straight away, it says Queen there. That is what I've been told. It's a queen. Of course, that could change it, and maybe it's a king. But from what I've told, this is a queen. So, Rakiti, what are your first thoughts on this?
Okay, so first of all, I know you said that maybe it's also a king, but I think this is pretty much a confirmation that we're going to have a Numenorian queen. In my opinion, it's most likely that's Tartalperian.
Hmm.
So she was the staunch singleton who refused to help the elves. I know that some folks believe we'll also see Aldarion, and in that case, the queen could be his daughter, Ankalime. So, like the first half of the season could be Aldarion, and then the later half of the season could be his daughter. But I don't think that's very likely. I think having Tartalperian on the throne would tie in very nicely with the whole story of the Forging of the Rings. So another thing that this makes me excited for is that Nazanin Boniadi was certainly still in New Zealand, like in late May, and she's still there.
Yeah.
So I have my theory that she's the best candidate for Telperion. So I'm thinking that could also be like another little sign that she potentially could be the one
Yeah.
filling that role.
Yeah. That was my first thought as well. She looks like she could fill that role quite nicely.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what we just because this is an important part, what we have heard is that it's Numenorian Queen throne room. So that's the news. That's the final thing being sure. Having it being Tartalperian and having Nazanin Boniadi is all just our own personal speculation.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, so it's good just to split up the two and show what we've heard. But yeah, but that's the point of this. We have to speculate around this. So apparently it's a really, really big and magnificent set, this Queen's throne room. That even gives me a bit of goosebumps. Think about that when we
Yeah.
see that in the
Yeah.
show.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think this is also. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle,
No,
please.
you go ahead. I think I cut you
Okay, I
off
just
every single time, so you go ahead.
no, no, no. I think I'm the same. Sorry. So
Uh,
I just wanted to say that if it is indeed the queen, then I think this is a really good sign that we're indeed telling like at least the first season at the middle of the second age. So like we know at the end of second age there was Ar-Pharazôn, who was the prime king. I mean he was married to his cousin, but I think given that it's the queen's throne room, if it is indeed the Queen's throne room, I think that's another good indicator then that this story is indeed taking place much earlier than the end of the Second Age.
yeah, I was gonna say something pretty much along the same lines. Forging the Rings around end of the 1500s, early 1600. So Tartalperian would have been that's who would have been ruling at the time. So I
Yeah.
think it lends a lot of credence to the idea that the show kind of centers around the forging of the rings, and that's where we're gonna go from. I'm excited.
I I think so too, and I think the conflict between Tartalperion's unwillingness to aid the elves in their war against Sauron, and then her nephew Tarminastir's willingness to do
Yes.
just that, I think
Yes.
that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah,
So
I think it adds a lot of political intrigue. Like you said earlier,
indeed.
we'll have a lot of this action, and then we'll have some political drama as well, which is really cool.
And I think one of the running themes so far is royalty, and that
Yeah.
this is the kingdoms. And for example, if we're talking about, because we don't know if the show is going to tell the mid or late second age, but I think we're all presuming that it is the mid second age, as that would make the most sense, or at least at the start of the show, and having it makes sense as well, because the Doom, you have maybe the Dwarven King going too far, has all these mine shafts topple over each other. Meanwhile, in Numenor, we've got this massive Numenorean politics, and we've got this massive throne room as well. And of course, is I don't think it being the last thing being filmed for principal photography means that it's going to be the last things we're going to see in the season, because you do record and film episodes staggered, right? So that might be for episode 3 or episode 4 or episode 1 not episode 1 2, because I was all filmed last year. But from these scenes that were filmed in late May could be from episode 3 to episode 8. Is that right?
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Yeah, for sure. It makes me wonder if the pilot is somehow potentially, the first two episodes are detached maybe from the rest of the series. Like, I know we talked earlier about a potential prologue or whatever, but I think that's certainly a possibility as well. We maybe we have the first two episodes and then we have a big time jump or something like that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I
Yeah.
think that could be the way they were going with this, especially given the fact that we know, I mean, we've heard that they're planning to make the first two episodes much longer than the rest of them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
actually, now that you mentioned that, I was just reading recently about how this is kind of off topic, but the fourth season of Ozark is going to have 14 episodes or something like that. So that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just shows how studios and a lot these episodes, because of the budget spent on each episode
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
But
and the flexibility, right? They can do whatever they want.
indeed, yeah, that's a good point. So I think we've covered the first two, and now this one's a little less. It's just a little, not a little thing, but it just maybe it shows what's happening in Numenor at the time. So the third thing is that the character that Anthony Crumb is playing volunteers to join the Numenorian army. So from this, Kyle, we can presume that this is probably in Numenor, and the reason my viewers might be saying, "Hey, this that's probably obvious. Why is that you pointing that out?" But it could be maybe the Numenorian army is already in Middle Earth or
Yeah.
something like that. But what are your takes on that?
Yeah, it makes me wonder. The volunteer part of that is the key part of that, I think. But it certainly makes me wonder if we're going to see like a Numenorian army built up over the course of the whole season, right? And see maybe more of that toward the end. That would be super interesting.
And
Yeah, for me, the volunteer part makes me wonder if he is in fact a Numenorian. In my opinion, that could mean two things: that he could either be a Numenorian or a member of the Gwathuririm. So if he's a Numenorian, I think that's quite interesting, given the fact that we've speculated that the Numenorians will be mostly played by cast members of Persian descent, with possibly Nazanin Boniadi and Sofia Nonvete. So that could be interesting because he doesn't look Persian to my eyes.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then if he is a Gwathuririm, that could, I think, play very interestingly into the conflict between the Gwathuririm and the Numenorians, with some members of the Gwathuririm community are being supportive of the seafaring invaders and some of them strictly against it. So he could be like going against his own community to volunteer for the Numenorian army or something.
Yeah, I think that volunteer part signals of kind of a very epic something one way or the other.
Something.
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I'm back. the interesting thing about doing all this work and all these weekly shows is that at the same time their football's on as well, and Denmark have just scored against Wales, so I was looking at that. But yeah,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm hoping that what you guys said was informative, and I'm sure it is. So
I love it. Who's your team?
I'm from England, so I support England, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
yeah, but Wales are really, of course, close things. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
for them to do well. So that's a bit annoying, but
Right on.
moving on swiftly, so we have covered Anthony Crumb's character to join the Numenorian army, and overall,
Maybe just one.
yeah, gone for
Just one more thing in regard to Anthony Crumb. I was kind of hoping that he could potentially be playing like a young dwarf. And
Oh,
given this
interesting.
this new bit of information that he
Mm.
volunteers for the Numenorian army, I think that's not very likely that he's going to be a dwarf after all.
Mm.
I can't really see a dwarf volunteering, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a bit disappointed. I was really hoping we'd see him as a young and enthusiastic dwarf, maybe even Narvi. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of him that way, but now that you say that, that's super interesting. I think at first look I saw either a man or an elf really.
yeah, obviously.
But yeah, that's really cool.
So, what do you guys think out of these is like the biggest leak so far out of these main ones?
I think that the scene that we've got, like the dwarven king that falls down the mine shaft, that's pretty big if it turns out to be true. I
And
think that's
topples over him.
yeah, exactly.
On the
That's a
other hand, I
really
think
strong visual. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it is. No, you go. I think on the other hand that the presumably Tartalparian thing is also very big because it kind of I think it'll give an idea of really where the timeline is.
Mm-hmm.
If it is indeed Tartalparian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
Tartalparian, that's not confirmed. What we're saying here.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
But
But we've been speculating that it's
mhm,
Tartalparian
mhm.
since
Yes.
forever
Yeah.
because
It
it
Yeah.
kind of
makes
just
the
makes
most sense.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking that for me that Dwarven King thing, I just imagine this even visualize it right now and seeing it in the show in about a year's time or whatever. Just seeing
Yeah.
there's that. Oh, I just imagine it. If you remember Gandalf in from the Lord of the Rings, I believe the start of the Two Towers when he falls down Moria to the
Yeah.
depths in the pits, and that scene. It
Yes,
would
that was
just
Oh
exactly what
yeah.
I thought of.
yeah. That's
Exactly
the
what came
first
to
thing that
mind for
comes
me
to
as
my
well. Yeah.
mind, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just having that and maybe having all this I just want to know what is making these mine shafts fall on these dwarves and this
Hmm.
dwarven kings, because
Hmm.
along near the dwarf, it's not just the dwarven king on his own falling down, there are other dwarfs around him, but
Mm.
I think
As long as it's not those huge worms from the Hobbit trilogy,
I was
I'm
yeah.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that for sure.
so I was so just I think before we finish up talking about context as well around that, the fact that principal photography is probably finishing soon and they're going to be doing pickups, and that a lot of the scenes with Tom Budge that he missed out are going to be done during these pickups as well.
Mm.
So that's another little interesting thing as well. So it does really seem like I was told about 3 weeks of pickups. So Tom Budge. So it seems that scenes that Tom Budge was in. He probably looks like he had a big role to play in those
Yeah.
first two
Indeed.
episodes, and it'll be interesting to see which director would be doing during the pickups as well, because that was Biona's episodes as well.
It would probably be like an assistant director, most
I
likely.
think so too, or a second unit director
Yeah.
or
Yes.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So just before we wrap up, we just also want to say shout out to not shout out, but to Amazon, that we are being fair here. This is just I don't think we haven't revealed anything too big. No, like we have the drawing thing's interesting, but nothing that's going to spoil it for anything for fans really.
I don't feel spoiled, so I
Yeah.
think we're good.
So
Yeah, I feel excited.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope this fuels more excitement around what we are going to see in this show, rather than oh no, it's being ruined for the fact. And I know Amazon. The reason I say that, because I know Amazon are really protective and really private around what's going on. This is probably the last thing they want are these story leaks that are coming out, which is why these are exclusive, unconfirmed rumors. So yeah.
Speculation.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Speculation.
And of course, we're all really start for any new information. We really
Yeah.
want to see anything released by now, just like
Yeah.
cast and roles or just a first teaser shot or pics of cast members in costumes. We just want anything whatsoever. So
Yeah. We're
Amazon,
desperate.
if you're listening, please, we're desperate.
Soon.
If not, I'll have to do that. I'm only kidding. I mean, I don't want to do this after the first time in October with those pictures. But
Yeah.
I think just before we wrap up, just because of that dwarven theme around today's video, here is on screen a picture of Kyle's excellent animated drawing of Durin. I think Peter Millen playing Durin in the Amazon show and sitting on his throne. So Kyle, talk to me around the fact about choosing Peter Millen. I know we've referenced it earlier.
Yeah, I think as soon as I saw that he had been announced as a cast member, the very first thing that came to mind was a dwarf, right? Like, so yeah, I was super excited to see that.
Yeah, and I think if I had to nail down which one what one actor's playing in this, what race they're playing, the first bit I'd put down is Peter Mullen. And I think it would just be because we have talked about quite a bit in today's video. Just a quick recap I'll go through now. So the Wrap Party is in 3 weeks, aimed more at the crew who have been there for around 20 months, but some of the remaining cast will be there as well, and hopefully maybe Amazon will give us a picture or release something on that time. And still the presumed final date is July 30th for pickups and wrap-ups, which will happen for about 3 weeks, and a lot of those scenes will involve Tom Budges missing the reshoots of his scenes as he did leave the show. And the first story leaks, I think, so far from the Amazon show, I think from anywhere, is that an unconfirmed Dwarven King falls down a mine shaft and has mine shafts topple over him, but survives and merely makes it out with his life. So that's the second part. That's really big and gives goosebumps around that as well. Just seeing,
Cool.
waiting to see that shot on the show. Then later on, as of late May 2021, as you referenced earlier, with film principal photography wrapping up this week, as of late May 2021, one of the final main sets and shots, basically locations being filmed for season 1 of LOTRonPrime was scenes within the new Menorian Queen throne room, which is very interesting. And finally, the character that Anthony Crum is going to play voluntarily joins the Numenorian army. So it looks like Numenor in this season will be recruiting quite a bit. And of course, it's interesting that Anthony Crum is volunteering to join the army. And before we go, just a little hint, as I gave last week, I think carrying on, there's a hint for next week. We have a confirmation from one of the set pictures, the pictures of the Camus Film Studio sets that we released about in February. So we know what that village set is now as well, and some more updates around that. So that's going to be in the next episode. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's again been a lovely time doing this, and hope you guys are just getting as excited as we are, as these story leaks are slowly starting to creep through. And who knows, maybe this is just the beginning, and maybe in a few weeks we might get something even bigger. Who knows? But just thank you, Kyle, for coming on as always.
Thanks again for having me. Just an absolute blast every time.
It truly is. And also thank you to Lakitia.
Hey, thanks to both you guys. It was lovely chatting to you.
To you too. And thank you to everyone watching. Please like and subscribe. But until the next video, my friends, goodbye.